Does Dragon Ball Sparking Zero have a counter problem? Because if we're being honest, the main two issues that you see in the community right now in terms of the gameplay of Sparking Zero is bugs, which is very understandable because there still are some and quite a few in the game. And then also counters. There are a good amount of people talking about counters and how there's too many counters, the counters are too easy, too strong, they need to be rebalanced, things like that. So I want to talk about all the counters that are in the game and how I personally would be reworking these in a way to make them where I feel they are better. Some of them may not get any changes at all. Some of them do definitely need changes in my opinion. So let's start off with Z counters, or as a lot of people call it, vanish counters, where you vanish when you're behind your opponent, when you counter them, and you can literally have those vanish battles. Literally can go on forever, especially if you and your opponent are in sparking mode. It will last probably over a minute if you guys do not mess up, which is just absolutely insane. And yes, you can do things like super counter, but after you super counter, your opponent can super counter you back, or they can vanish counter you once again and get right back in the same battle. So that still can go on forever without a doubt. So what I think they should do with this to make it a little bit better from not only a viewer perspective but a gameplay perspective, because you know a lot of people do want to push the competitive aspect of this game, which personally I don't think it really is one of those types, but any game can be made competitive as long as the fan base is behind it. So in that regard, the game has to be fun to view, right? So those vanish battles do not make the game very fun to view. So if they had a limit on them, like say there was a limit, like in Budokai Tenkaichi 4, the mod, there was a limit, I believe, where after you did like 4 or 5, there was like a clash that happened. That's something that can definitely make it a lot better in the game, to where you don't have those battles that are going on for 30 plus seconds, maybe even a minute plus if you and your opponent are both in sparking. So that's really the way I would rework that, and maybe give it a tighter window at the same time, because it is fairly easy without a doubt, like very, very easy. So moving on with that, we have revenge counter. Revenge counter, I really don't have an issue with how it works, honestly, because it's very easy to counter right back if you press circle or B and you do have the skill points to actually do that. So I don't have a big issue with that one at all, because not only do you have to be facing your opponent, like if you're turned around and your opponent has your back, you can't use revenge counter, but it also does take 2 skill points, and then at the same time, again, it is fairly easy to counter. Like it's the easiest counter, I feel like, besides vanish, to actually see coming and to like punish back, you know what I mean? And once you do punish them, you do get that free knockback, which some characters can use certain skills to actually combo in. So revenge counter, I really don't have much issue with at all, if I'm being honest. Now super counter, this is the one that I feel needs the most reworking as it stands right now, and it's not like huge changes by any means, but I think for one, it is far too easy at this moment in time. Like it was much harder in the old Budokai Tenkaichi games, or at least it felt that way back then when I was playing. And yes, I was a child, but I still feel like it was very much harder than it is in Sparking Zero in terms of the window for a super counter to get off. So I feel like that should definitely get a tighter window without a doubt. And then there's 2 possible changes that I feel could happen on top of that, right? One, it should cost some kind of meter, because think about, you know, basically all fighting games. In all fighting games, there aren't many defensive mechanics that are like a get off me mechanic or a counter mechanic while you're being comboed that do not cost some kind of meter. Super counter is literally free to use. There is no meter that is being used, whether it's skill points or key, and so it's essentially a free counter at that point in time. And again, that's not very normal for most fighting games. So I think if you added some kind of cost to it, whether it's a skill point or whether it is some kind of key based thing, I think that would help balance it out a little bit. Or the other one, which I personally think would be the best option, is give it a cooldown after you miss. Like if you miss a super counter when someone tries to attack you, right? Like, because you can do it multiple times. You can literally spam it. Like this is a clip of me spamming it. I'm showing you that I'm spamming it and I'm getting the super counter off literally by spamming it, right? So if you can do that, it doesn't work the best that way, but if you can do that, there should be some kind of cooldown to prevent that, not only because that is a very scrubby way to do it, but also you can try to do it a skillful way where you're not necessarily spamming it, but say you try to do it on the first attack and you miss. So on that first punch you get hit with, you miss. Usually in most fighting games, when you mess up and miss something like that, you are supposed to be getting punished. But in Sparking Zero, you can try that super counter again during the actual combo and skillfully try to do it and try to time some of the combos, the punches mid-combo and things like that, to get off another super counter or get that super counter off during that. So I think if they added a cooldown to where if you do miss it your first time, you do have to eat that combo, or you cannot super counter at least out of that combo from then on out, or for like a 10-second cooldown or something along those lines, I think it would make it much better overall, to where it's not more of a thing that you can spam, like I said, or just do multiple times, you know, because like I said, in fighting games, you are supposed to be punished when you actually do mess up. So I think that would be a good change, and I believe that's how it worked in the old Budokai Tenkaichis as well. Now moving on, the last one is perception. Perception is one that I think is just a very simple fix. I think it should just cost something. Like, yes, super perception does cost, I believe it's 1 or 2 skill count. I don't remember exactly, but regular perception does cost absolutely nothing. Like you use no meter of any kind when you're just using regular perception. So regular perception, in my opinion, if they just made it cost something, like maybe key, if they don't want to make it cost skill count, just like super perception is, make it cost a little bit of key, just kind of similar to how like vanishing costs a little bit of key. If they did something like that, I feel it'll help balance it out, because a lot of people just do kind of be hitting the perception a lot. And yes, you can just grab them out of it, but at the same time, countering grabs is fairly easy in this game, and if you know that's the main thing you're looking for when you do perception, you can counter it fairly easy and just get that reset of neutral off at the same time. So I think if they just made it cost something, you know, because usually again counters in fighting games do not just come for free, so I think making it cost something would make it a little bit more balanced. And I think it's kind of odd though that like the two best counters in a sense are the ones that cost absolutely nothing. Perception and super counter right now are two of the strongest counters in Sparking Zero, and that is mainly because they don't have any cost behind them and you can do it multiple times. Like if they put a cooldown thing on perception as well, that would be another thing that would actually work, to where you cannot use it multiple times. Like if you mess up that first time, you can't use it for like another 10 seconds or so. Something along those lines I think would definitely help it out as well. So that's really how I think counters could be reworked in this game, you know, to make them a little bit more balanced and to where not many people would have issues with them, because again, really it's more about just kind of changing it to how the old Budokai Tenkaichis work, because I feel they did have them balanced out a little bit better back at that time with the whole cooldown thing. But again, if they just also made it cost meter, like when it comes to super counter and regular perception, that could also be a change that I think could definitely help balance it out at the same time. So let me know what you guys think though down below in the comments on my thoughts on this right here. What are your opinions on counters as it stands right now in Sparking Zero? And if you do think that counters should be reworked in some way, shape, or form, how would you exactly rework them at this moment in time when it comes to this game? Let me know your thoughts on that down below in the comments. But till next time, boys, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, hope you have a good one. Hey, y'all.